Good afternoon, I'm still reporting. You may have noticed that I put up no reports last Tuesday. Here's why. I got an email about 6 a.m. accepting my offer to interview the highest-ranking former member of the NSA ever to speak out. I could ask any question and have complete control over the edit. The only restriction was that the interview had to be done later that day. A few hours later, I was sitting about 2 miles from NSA headquarters in Maryland interviewing Mr. Bill Binney. Mr. Binney spent 37 years in the NSA. He worked his way up to having the daunting title of Technical Director of the World for Geopolitical and Military Analysis and Reporting Group. In early 2001, before the 9/11 attacks, Mr. Binney saw that NSA was turning its formidable electronic spying capabilities on her own people. Initially, he tried going through the proper channels to report this illegal and unconstitutional activity to his superiors, the Justice Department, Congress, and even the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court. This brought an investigation of Mr. Binney, not against the illegal activities he was trying to properly report, but against him personally. Eventually, Mr. Binney learned that the Justice Department was about to indict him. But Mr. Binney is a very thorough man. He had been very careful not to reveal any classified information and had gathered a mountain of evidence that allowed him to threaten the Justice Department with malicious prosecution should they proceed. The Justice Department finally gave up and granted Mr. Binney a letter of immunity so he can now speak freely about his days at NSA in nonspecific but very revealing terms. Mr. Binney is a shining example of just how one brave American can still take on the world's most powerful spy agency and win. He shows just how much freedom we still have left in this country and how deeply the rule of law is still ingrained in every American. Now Mr. Binney comes forward to express his opinions on the information provided last year by another NSA whistleblower, Edward Snowden, and many other issues related to the maintenance of freedom in America and the world. Thank you very much for welcoming me into your home, and could you just say your name and what your position with the NSA was?
Well, my name's Bill Binney. I used to be the technical director of the World Geopolitical Military Analysis and Reporting Group, which is about 6,000 people. I was like the technical director there, so I would deal with technical issues for the world. Any problem in the world, you know, I had to see if I could help solve it. That's all.
And how long were you with NSA?
Total of 37 years. 4 years in the military and 32 years, a little over 32 as a civilian. So I was in the Army Security Agency, which is the Army's part of the CSS, Combined Security Service of NSA CSS. So it's like all the military service components of SIGINT with the civilian component.
I guess really the first question is, do you think that what Snowden has alleged has turned out to be true?
I know it's true, right? So I mean, I knew this before that. I just didn't take documentation of it with me when I left. Snowden realized from what happened to us, Tom Drake, Kirk Wiebe, Ed Loomis and I, and also Diane Rourke, and John Kiriakou. He saw what was happening to whistleblowers, and so he felt if he was going to say anything after leaving service with the government, he would have to have documentation with him, so he wouldn't have he wouldn't be questioned about it. It would be the documentation of the government's programs and their briefing slides of their own programs. So that basically he took the first, you know, the best evidence with him with that documentation. So that stands for itself. It's the government's material about their programs.
The NSA subsequently has testified before Congress, I believe, that in reality no full voice recordings of telephone conversations, for example, have actually been recorded, that all their recording is the metadata, basically the telephone numbers between parties. And Snowden alleges that that's not the case, and where do you come down on that?
Well, that's a lie, right? It's just not right. Lie. The government's lying. Yeah, they just don't want to admit that they're taking in content of phone calls and emails. I mean, even if you looked at, you have two sources from the FBI. Tim Clementi, the ex-FBI agent who was commenting on CNN about the Boston bombers, and the phone call that one of the Tsarnaev brothers made to his wife prior to the bombing, and that FBI was questioning her about that phone call and what was said on that phone call. And he was saying, this FBI agent on CNN was saying that she'd better tell the truth, because if she doesn't, they have ways of getting back to the conversation and finding out what was said. And he was challenged on that, and he just said, well, no digital data is safe, and the intelligence community and the FBI have ways of getting back to things, which meant that the calls were recorded. So, and also in testimony to the Senate Judiciary Committee in March 30th of 2011, FBI Director Mueller said, when in response to a question of how would you prevent a future Fort Hood, that is a U.S. citizen becoming radicalized and committing terrorist acts inside the U.S., he said one of the things he said that they did was they got together with the Department of Defense and created a technology database wherein he could make one query and get all past emails and all future ones as they came in on a person. So that tells you they're storing all of this data. It's all content, not just metadata.
Okay, but you aren't relying strictly on this public testimony of people.
No.
You know this for a fact.
I have that firsthand. That's the reason I left NSA in October 2001, because they started spying on everybody in the United States. That's why I left.
So in 2001, this was going on. This has been going on for 13 years now.
Yep. It started in October of 2001 with phone records of U.S. phone calls from Verizon, I guess AT&T, and various other ones. I think the only one that resisted was the Ignacio, who was the CEO of Quest. Initially, he was approached in February of 2001. This is before 9/11, 6 or 7 months before, and he was asked for his customer data. And he said he refused unless they would give him a regular warrant signed by a judge. He would not turn that over, and they wouldn't do that. Now, of course, eventually they put him in jail. So I mean, he's getting out now. I think he's out now. So, but he claims he was framed, and I know they tried to frame me. So I don't doubt what he was saying. Refusing to cooperate is not acceptable in this administration.
Be sure to tune in tomorrow for part 2 of this explosive interview. I'm still reporting on freedom. Good day.